Good morning, and thank you for attending today's Worksite Wellness Lunch and Learn. I'm Carol Battle, and I manage the Worksite Wellness Program. Please note that we do offer closed captioning for this event. For captioning in English, just click the CC button at the bottom of your screen. Or if you'd like captioning in Spanish, click the link that we have posted in the chat. Today's topic is applicable to all of us. Who doesn't want to learn about everything in their control to help live a long and happy, healthy life? In just a few minutes, you will learn many things that can help you do just that. Katie Godin with Lifestyle Medical Centers will share some enlightening research on the subject of longevity. She will follow up with a cooking demo featuring a scrumptious cucumber and chickpea salad with feta and lemon. Katie's a registered dietitian who has been practicing for over 16 years. She focuses on helping individuals improve their knowledge and relationship with food and to meet their personal health goals. Lifestyle Medical Centers is an in-network nutrition counseling service. For those of you enrolled in the state health plan, virtual and in-person visits are covered at 100% for in-network providers like Lifestyle Medical Centers. We have dietitians across the state. To find one near you, log into your state health plan portal, which is listed on the cover slide. As a reminder, everyone who registered for this event will receive a recording of today's presentation, as well as the recipe and a link to our webpage where we house all past cooking demos and information about upcoming webinars. During the presentation, you can use the chat box for any questions, and we will answer those as they come in and with Katie during the cooking demo. I'd like to thank all the members of the NC Flex team who are here today to help with questions. Katie has saved a few minutes at the end of the event to conquer any questions that we're not able to get to during the demo. So with no further ado, let's welcome Katie in the Lunch and Learn. Hey, Katie.
Hey, thank you, Carol. Hey, everybody. It's hard to believe we're in 2024 and here we are starting a new year. I hope everyone's is going off to a good start. It certainly sometimes feels like a long month, January, but I think, one thing that I've really honestly enjoyed doing more of over the past month is doing some more cooking. So sometimes it's nice to just kind of embrace a little bit of quiet, a little bit of, relaxed, no plans, no hustle and bustle of the holidays. And so I'm hoping that, you're inspired to use some of these recipes that we've kind of done throughout the years. And today's is going to be a really fun one, very simple, easy, tasty addition to a meal. But anyway, let me see. Oh, I'm not sure why it's not letting me advance my slides. There we go. I think I did that right. All right, so today, guys, we are going to be talking about longevity and Blue Zone research. Not sure if you guys have heard of Blue Zone research before. We're going to get into what that is, and then also how you can apply some of the concepts and strategies that these Blue Zones use in their daily lifestyle to help with your own lifestyle and longevity. First, just to kind of go through, I know Carol mentioned briefly in regards to your dietitian visits being covered through your insurance. Here at Lifestyle, we definitely value the fact that we are a very individualized program for people. We're not cookie cutter. So if you're going to come and see one of us, you're not going to see someone that's going to be doing the same thing with every single patient. We have a lot of services that we offer. I don't know if you guys have been thinking about potentially starting up with the program, or looking into seeing a dietitian if you've never seen one before. But as far as our program goes, the way that you could learn a little bit more information about it is to go to our website, which is lifestylemedicalcenters.com. And you're going to scroll down just a little bit and you're going to see a little button and it's going to say request consultation. Okay. And what you'll do is just enter in some information and someone from our office will actually get in touch with you in regards to those next steps. And so, let's say that you do decide to seek out lifestyle. As Carol mentioned, we do virtual. So that's great, given that some of you guys are in, all over the state and not necessarily in Raleigh where we're located. Virtual is one of those convenient ways of doing these consultations. And I feel like it's really helped people in a lot of ways to stay consistent with their visits because you can do them with a little bit more ease. So I do appreciate that. So you can do virtual or in person, depending on what's best for you. And you would meet to start with one of our clinicians who are typically PAs, and you would go over, medical related information, various history and current information that would be pertinent to the development of your kind of personalized program. And then they would put you in with a dietitian. Usually within a week of seeing the clinician, you're going to be seeing one of the dietitians. And of course, you meet with dietitians more frequently. The clinicians are typically about once a month and sometimes not even that much. And usually for a clinician visit, it's your standard primary care copay. So I think sometimes it's helpful just to have a little bit of that information if you're considering an appointment with Lifestyle. Okay. All right. So let's move on into the topic. All right. So as I mentioned, we're going to be talking a little bit about blue zones today and longevity. And I'm not sure if you guys have heard of the recent documentary. It's been out for a little over a year at this point, I think, or within the past year. It was out in 2023. It's called Live to 100 Secrets of the Blue Zones. And it's originated and based off of Dan Buettner's exploratory project that kind of started around 2004. He originally was started with National Geographic as an explorer / journalist. He embarked on this exploratory project to kind of unlock some areas around the world that was just known for advanced lifespan and longevity and quality of life. And so him and this team of demographers kind of came together and discovered that there were 5 specific regions that stood out to them. And those we're going to talk about today specifically, and what the characteristics are of those 5 blue zones. And how the term blue zone got originated was when they were doing their research, these demographers would draw blue circles on a map in these areas of extreme longevity. And so that's kind of how that term came about. And what's interesting is that these individuals are reaching the age 100, so they're centenarians, 10 times faster than those in the US. And if you've not checked out the documentary, it is, I feel, lovely. I love just looking at the culture and the history and the characteristics that are making up these regions where people are living these just full, healthy lives. And I think it's just really empowering to, kind of take on some of the things that they are doing and kind of do them for yourself. And so we're going to talk a lot about, how you can do that today. All right. So one thing that his team, though, did find is that they all shared these 9 specific lifestyle habits. So he termed it the Power 9. So that's going to be our next focus here. So we're going to talk about what these 9 habits are that these blue zones shared. So one thing that they shared was something that he called a downshift. So basically, they were finding that they were reversing disease by finding a stress relieving strategy. And so he really encourages people to find a stress relieving strategy that works for you. I think when I kind of assessed at the end of this documentary and looked over these 5 blue zones, that is something that really stood out to me. As far as one thing they all had in common was just their strive for living a good life. They wanted to be happy. They did the things that made them happy. They surrounded themselves with people that made them happy. And so I really feel like that is such an important component to our longevity. I think we know how much stress impacts our life. And I think when we're embarking on this journey of, living a healthier lifestyle, I don't think that's the first thing that people think of is, okay, how am I going to reduce my stress? It's usually, how am I going to lose weight? Right. And so I really think shifting priorities here and sometimes refocusing on different lifestyle habits can be really, really powerful. So stress reducing strategies is really important. And kind of the purpose part, I feel like goes along with that, waking up with a purpose. Why do you want to live a healthy lifestyle? I tell people this all the time when we're goal setting. I'm always saying, listen, you've got to find your relevance here. What makes this goal relevant to you? Is it because, you want to be able to, run around with your children without getting winded? Is it because you want to have less joint pain? It needs to be something that's really significant to you, something that's really going to motivate you. Finding your purpose is extremely important. When we get into these blue zones, you'll see that it is a heavily plant-based focus within the diet. I do not think you have to be a vegetarian to live a long life. I am someone that is incorporating meat into my lifestyle. I feel like that's something that's a personal choice. I think that there's strong evidence and research pointing towards the more plant-based foods we can put into our diet, the better. So what I usually encourage people to do is to just not always rely on meat to get your protein. Get creative. And I think that's one thing that dietitians are really helpful at, is kind of shifting your thoughts into a bit more creativity with food. I think that's something that you can get kind of stuck in a rut, right? Like you just kind of get used to the same old things over and over. Sometimes just talking through lots of examples, figuring out how to put foods together. I think that's something that is really helpful when you're working with a dietitian and trying to learn how to eat more plant-based protein sources. So, okay, wine at 5. He really is encouraging out of all of this research that it is okay. And often I think 4 out of the 5 blue zones incorporate wine, or it says alcohol, but I think most of it is wine on a regular basis, between 1 to 2 glasses, basically the recommended amount here per person for kind of a modest alcohol amount in a day. Now, I think that it's not always just about the alcohol part of things, the wine part of things. It's not that you have to have wine in order to be healthy or not. I think it's just these individuals do enjoy a glass of wine. And I think it's how they enjoy their glass of wine. So I always like to put that into perspective for people who enjoy having a drink at night or socially on the weekends. Why are you having that drink? Are you pouring that drink because you've had a long day and it's been stressful and this is your way of kind of slipping into some relaxation? Or is this something that you're doing around a table with lots of family and friends, and you're in having laughs and sharing good, healthy food, and you're just really kind of making a memory? I feel like there's a difference in those 2 examples. So I think it's just learning about habits with alcohol. That's something that I like to work with people on as well. But according to Blue Zone research, a glass of wine with friends each day is definitely part of the plan. Family first. So investing time with family and adding up to 6 years to your life. Now, we'll get into it in a second, but these individuals in certain blue zones really prioritize family to the point that they all live together. Extended family lives together. They live nearby. They live in the same villages. They help each other out. They prioritize their elders. They make sure that everyone is taken care of. And I think that that just takes a lot of stress off of the older person, and it's not necessarily realistic to do all of these things. I want to go ahead and throw all of that out here. It's not going to be realistic that we live exactly like some of these people do live in these very special parts of the world and villages in the world that live very differently than we do on a regular basis. But I think it's just getting the general idea of some of the things that maybe we can't change based on this information. The 80% rule. So they eat mindfully and stop when 80% full. That's a big one. And I know that that's something that can be really difficult for people to do. We eat fast and we eat on the run, we eat distracted. These are all things that we do when we eat that these particular cultures don't do at all. They prioritize their meals and the way that they eat. They sit down always to eat. They're always having conversation. They're always prioritizing this as a special part of their day versus a time of day that needs to be just worked through so we can get to the next task. And so it's easier for them to recognize that they're full quicker because studies show when we eat slower, we recognize fullness. We can get to this idea of, I think I'm comfortable right now and I can save this and eat more later when I'm hungry again. So mindful eating is a big part of their habits with food for sure. One thing that I loved a lot was their ability to create movement throughout the entire day, moving naturally, finding ways to move more. I think just staying up on your feet more is something that I like to work with people on. We can kind of get parked, seated while we're working, then we're sitting while we're driving, then we're to go get the kids, then we're sitting when we come home, maybe we're resting or watching TV at night. We're not moving, and so simply just standing. We were talking about this before we got on the presentation today, but just simply standing at a stand-up desk, whether you want to move while working or not. I mean, just the act of standing can be really helpful. It's easier for you to just immediately walk over to another area and stretch your legs if you're already standing. So when we think about movement goals, when we're setting with people, we really like to start with simple stuff. I think I've mentioned this before with another presentation, but research does show that when we go and we have a hard workout, we go to the gym for an hour and a half even, and we work out really, really hard, okay? It's all good. But if that's all we're doing that day, and the rest of the day we're a lump and we're sitting around, research is pointing more towards the people like these blue zones that are moving naturally all day long in order to get their movement in. So the right tribe, surrounding yourself with people who support positive behaviors. Sometimes this is something we're not thinking about, but when we have a particular goal in mind for ourselves, whether it's we want to move more, we want to eat a little differently, we want to, maybe we're cutting back on eating out, or we're, wanting to go for walks more, we want to be with people that are going to help facilitate and encourage us and support us through that. So I think not only finding people that support your positive behaviors by doing them with you, just people that are supportive of your behaviors in general is really important. And I'm sure that everyone has a lot of people that they can turn to. Sometimes I'll just tell people when we're goal setting, let a lot of people know what you're trying to do. People that you trust and will support you. Let them know what you're trying to do, because the more support you get, the more you're able to actually kind of follow through with the things that you're wanting to do for yourself. As far as the belonging to a faith-based community, I think that this is something that can look differently for everybody. It does not have to be we're belonging to a certain faith, we're belonging to a certain structured thing we're doing every single week. I think it's really just finding what makes you feel good and making sure that you're doing that. This kind of goes along with a lot that's been said, being around the people that support you, doing the things that are going to make you happy. And I feel, yeah, that's kind of what these blue zones have showed us. So let's get into what the actual blue zones are. So the 5 blue zones are located in Ikaria, Greece, Loma Linda, California, Sardinia, Italy, Okinawa, Japan, and Nicoya, Costa Rica. So what Dan and this team of demographers and researchers found is that individuals in these areas are living without the presences of disease and or health conditions, such as diabetes, heart disease, cancer, obesity. These are some of the main things that they were finding and what's leading them to live to be 100 plus, which is wild. So let's talk about Ikaria, Greece here. So Dan is to the right when you're looking at this picture. So he's the main researcher here. And so in Ikaria, Greece, 1 in 3 are making it to their 90s, and they're almost entirely free of dementia. So the things that they are embracing here, they're embracing mindless movements, kind of like what I talked about before. People are out and about. They're doing physical chores. I think at this point, we just kind of think about, oh, how are we going to do all of the chores, right? We've got kids' activities and we have things that we have to get done on the weekends. We can't do all of this stuff. How are we going to get it done? That's what they do. They're doing that all of the time. They're embracing more of a Mediterranean diet, which I'm sure is no shock given that it's Greece. They're, loads of olive oil. They really focus on goat milk. So goat milk specifically has a higher concentration of tryptophan, which is something that is going to help make you kind of feel calm, and a little bit more potassium. So just to kind of throw out some differences there between cow's milk. They drink a lot of herbal tea. So herbal tea is something that they're drinking daily. They're doing some fasting. I know we've talked about fasting before. Again, I think there's probably something from one of these blue zones or many things from these blue zones that you're going to take from it. I tell people all the time, we don't have to fast in order to live a healthy life. However, sometimes doing just some kind of, light fasting. Normally what I'll tell people with fasting would be maybe a 12-hour break. There's a lot of research that points to that. So maybe we stop at 7 and start again at 7. So it's mostly when we're sleeping. A lot of that can have some metabolic benefits. One thing that I was really interested in with this particular blue zone was the daily naps. And man, just a little cat nap. And it would be amazing when you think about all of the time you probably waste within a day. You probably do have enough time for a 20-minute snooze. It's whether I always think, am I actually going to be able to fall asleep though? Anyway, they take daily naps and just strong social connections, which is, I think, so interesting when we saw that firsthand, of course, during the pandemic, when we weren't having those social connections and how much it affects our mental health, which is such a big part of our longevity when we're not having that stimulation, that connection to other people. So that's something that they value. All right. So Loma Linda, California. So there's actually a blue zone in the US. This is the only blue zone in the US currently. So these individuals live as much as a decade longer than the rest of Americans. It's a community of 9,000 Seventh-day Adventists. All right. And so things that they embrace in this community that's helping with their longevity. They are vegetarian, okay? So they do not eat any meat. They are purely plant-based. They're focusing in on regular exercise, but low intensity. And so that is something that has been a theme throughout the Blue Zones, is low intensity exercise. And I'm hoping that that kind of makes people feel really good, because sometimes when people will come into my office, they'll think, oh gosh, I've got to start doing all these things that I hate, and, got to hit it hard. And they feel like that's what's to be expected of them when they're trying to improve their lifestyle habits. So that is not necessarily the case. So they do not smoke and they do not do any alcohol. And obviously, being vegetarian, they're eating meat sparingly, not at all. And so they're doing beans a few times a week and nuts 5 times a week. I know that's very specific, but I feel like the gist is they're eating more, they're focusing in on beans and they're focusing in on nuts. And so I've talked about that a lot before too, just more beans in the diet. And that's why I'm featuring a bean recipe today, is because I want to encourage people to eat more beans in their diet. A lighter dinner. I find that is very helpful for so many reasons. And I love that that is something that they do within this Blue Zone. And that's something that was highlighted. A lighter dinner is going to do a lot of things. It's going to encourage you, to front load calories, meaning eat more at the beginning of the day. A lot of research points that that's better on your metabolism, because when we kind of lean in towards the end of the day, our metabolism is starting to take a shift downward. We're not burning as many calories. Our body's preparing for rest. Kind of fits along the lines of just our natural circadian rhythms, which is also a really good point to bring up with how we eat. And then also for people that might struggle with reflux, that's something that needs to be considered. I'm always encouraging people to eat lighter to help avoid eating so close to bedtime, to help with reflux symptoms. We sleep better when we eat less at night. And so obviously sleep is such an important part to, in my opinion, to our mental health, to our immune system, to our longevity. That is not something, actually, now that I'm thinking about it, that was brought up. And I feel like sleep is such a big part. I would be really interested to see what their sleep habits are like and how they sleep, but they did not talk about that. Friendship and volunteering. And so very similar to, the social connection side of things with the Ikaria Greece Blue Zone, but, friendship is so powerful, and volunteering is so powerful. Or it doesn't have to be volunteering, but it could just be a way that you give back. It could be just anything, doing kind things for other people. I think that's, just a big thing that we could focus on a little bit more. Okay, moving on. So Sardinia, Italy. I have to say, I can't decide. And I don't know, like I said, I don't know if you've seen this or not, but if you haven't, the documentary, I'm meaning, Sardinia, Italy, I think has my heart. It would just be a phenomenal place to visit. And the people within the area, oh my goodness, it's so amazing to see how they live. And this particular Blue Zone was the first defined Blue Zone. The things that they embrace. All right, so they're literally hunting and fishing, and they're harvesting their own food. These women are spending so much time making things from scratch, kneading their own bread. Talk about a workout, making bread. You're in there watching them, just kind of pound on the bread, moving around, things like that. That's actual, activity for them. Whereas the men are out, they're, shepherding and they're hunting and they're doing all of this physical labor. It's really, really interesting. And I know that that's not necessarily realistic for us to do on a regular basis, but I think the thing that you can take from that particular characteristic is just that they're eating, very whole foods. They're really kind of focusing in on foods that are fresh and not processed when it comes to what they eat. They are mostly plant-based. They do eat some meat, but mostly plant-based. So that has been a strong theme as well. Strong family values. So, as I've mentioned before, it just is so important to these particular parts of the world to just constantly be with family, to sit with family, to eat with family, to, have conversation and laughter and all of that all the time. They celebrate their elders. So that's something that I find just really sweet and lovely to just watch how they take care of each other. Lots of walking. That's one of their main exercises. They walk to house to house. They're climbing stairs. They're walking on cobblestone. It's uneven. They're doing lots of just activity throughout the day, in lots of different ways. They are definitely drinking some wine on a daily basis. They also do goat's milk, and then lots of laughter. I read this somewhere and I had it written down. I thought, oh, here it is. So children laugh 300 times a day. Maybe you guys have seen this floating around, information floating around somewhere, but I saw it somewhere and I just thought about it and how wonderful it is to just envision children laughing and literally just watch children. And that's all that they do. They're just giggling and laughing and running and playing. And it's just so wonderful. And then you just kind of shoot over to an adult and they're probably just over there stressed or worried or, whatever, about something, because that's how it goes, right? Our life gets more difficult as we get older. But I think one thing that these blue zones and this particular blue zone really embraces is the power of laughter and having fun and being with people that make you laugh. And so, so I think that's really something that is important to kind of think about for yourself. All right, so Okinawa, Japan. So women live longer here than anywhere else in the world. So I found that very interesting. This was there were lots of parts of this blue zone that I found interesting. This particular blue zone, they have a very strong sense of purpose, or ikigai, as you call it. And so they wake up each day with a purpose to live. They're driven to live this life and make it the best for themselves and for those around them. They eat mostly plant-based. They really focus on the Goya and the purple sweet potato. So that is something that's a staple in their diet alongside whole food soy. Tofu, miso, fermented soy, these are some of the main foods within their diet. Their moai, or their strong social network. You guys are hearing me say that throughout every single blue zone. Strong social network, social connections, friendships. I mean, it is so important. Sometimes we think, and that's why I liked this particular documentary and I loved the research on the blue zones, is that when we think about longevity, we're always, I know that it crosses my mind, well, maybe I should be taking this supplement, or maybe I should be eating this, or maybe I should be doing that. It's always focused around food, always. So when we kind of take it back and it's part of food, I'm a dietitian. Of course, I'm going to encourage healthy eating habits. But again, it really is more than that. If we're stressed out all of the time and eating plant-based, I guarantee the stress is going to trump some of the effects of the good nutrition that we're getting. We have to work on the rooted issues here. Okay, so they garden daily. I love that. If you don't have a garden and you've ever thought about planting a garden, that's a great way of getting kids involved and being active daily to check on it, tend to it, little things like that. That's kind of the stuff that they're doing. And obviously fresh produce is going to be a result of that. Their active lifestyle, in particular, they are at a very low risk for falls. And the reason for that is because of their lower body strength And the reason they have such strong lower bodies and great balance is because they sit on the floor all day. And I just found that very interesting. They just don't have a lot of furniture. I'm not telling you all you have to go out and get rid of your furniture, but I'm just telling you how important it is to work on balance and our strength and things like that, especially as we get older and we have reduced bone mass. And it's just an important thing for us to work on. If we can't sit on the floor all the time, of course, doing other things to help strengthen that area. And then they're taking in herbs and spices every single day. Ginger and turmeric were two of the top ones in their particular diet. Okay, and our last blue zone here, Nicoya, Costa Rica, they again, purpose, right? So I've said that throughout. It's called Plan de Vida, a reason to live. They have a purpose, they have a positive outlook among elders, which keeps them active. When we feel like we have a purpose, we are more likely to prioritize just doing things that make us feel good. And so, they live with extended family. They contribute to the greater good. They also eat a light dinner. Some of their food staples are squash, corn, and beans. This particular part of the world, that's what they eat a lot of. They're strong, within, socializing. Their socialization is very important. Their physical chores. They get regular sunshine and outside time every single day. I think all of these blue zones are getting outside time every single day. And they really embrace their roots and traditions. So they're doing things that, mean a lot to them. And so anyway, yeah, so I hope that this was interesting to you guys, because for me, it really just put a lot into perspective on things that I could work on, that I could help my children work on, that, we could work on as a whole, that I could help my patients with. So leading into that, how can you increase your longevity? These are some things that I thought we could start with. So moving daily and getting outdoors. And that doesn't mean, I'm not telling you have to go to the gym for 45 minutes to an hour and lift weights and run 3 miles and all the things. I'm saying move every single day and get outdoors. Doing more balancing and flexibility exercises. We do not stretch enough. We do not do balancing exercises enough. So we're going to be more prone to hurting ourselves, and even if you're doing weights, and which I do think is a great component to an exercise regimen. However, if we're not stretching and doing yoga and other things to compensate for the way that we're working our muscles, we're going to get hurt easily. So balancing and flexibility exercises are really important. Laugh more, be around people that make you laugh. I know that I have groups of friends that when I'm with them, I laugh constantly. And one thing that I told myself as I embarked into this new year is that I just want to be around them more. I just feel good. And so I think that's something that I challenge people to do for themselves. Find your purpose, your ikigai. Find what really just means a lot to you. I know I'm going to use a dear friend as an example. She's in her work, she's in her job, it's what she has to do, but she's found her purpose in another area, and she's doing that alongside of her regular job, but she's doing something else now. She's a personal trainer. It's something that means a lot to her. She's found a purpose. She just feels really good from that. That's just a very quick example. I just challenge you guys to find your purpose. Is there something that you've been thinking about doing, something that is going to make you feel good, that you feel you can't do because of A, B, C, D? Maybe you can, right? Garden or eat more fresh produce. Go to your local farmer's market or start a garden, right? There's nothing that says you can't do something small. Start with some containers, just little container gardens, and herb garden, right? To have more herbs in your diet, which is one of the things on the list. Some of the top 5 dietary pillars. So I'm recommending whole grains, vegetables, just of any kind, greens, beans, and sweet potatoes. See how much you can kind of rotate those into the picture a little bit more with food. Try eating a lighter dinner. I really feel like that's so helpful for a lot of people. And so I like to teach people how to front load calories so that they're not as hungry later in the day. And a lot of nighttime snacking is habitual. And so that's a harder thing to work through. But mindful eating, I didn't put on here, is something that I really think would be really helpful too. So mindful eating and eating a lighter dinner. Decrease your meat consumption, or just simply be creative and figure out other ways of getting protein in that's, plant-based. And that could be from working with us. It could be just searching what are some good plant-based proteins. Beans are one of them, as I mentioned, which we're going to do here in a second. Socialize more in your community. I put try volunteering because I feel like a lot of us might have kids, and I think it's a great exposure for your children. We have a local community garden right down the road, so I feel like that's another good way to socialize more in your community. And you can check gardening off the list too. You're doing both. Find your moai, those people that are going to support your healthy goals. Maybe you think of just a few people that you can kind of reach out to say, hey, I'm thinking about embarking on this journey. Are you here? Can you support me through it? There might be times where I feel like I'm, not feeling like I'm going to succeed, but I just want to have that support if I need it from you. Being vulnerable with people, I think is really important as well. And last but not least, take a cat nap. I mean, I know that it's not as realistic for busy lifestyles and all the things, but like I said, I bet you have 15 to 20 minutes of time that you're on your phone, right? Take your phone, put it away, and just kind of use that time you would be on your phone scrolling and lay down for 15 minutes. Okay, so all right, guys, I am going to, I've listed a few references here, only used a couple. I stuck with really just the core Blue Zone research and the documentary Live to 100. I highly recommend that. It is on Netflix. I did not mention that, but it is on Netflix. And today we are going to make a really easy cucumber chickpea salad with feta and lemon. Lovely. It's kind of springy. I think I was trying to kind of bring in some spring with all this cold and sickness. See, I'm going to stop sharing that. Okay. All right. Any questions as I start to kind of get things together? Okay. So, yeah. Carol, hey, I can hear you.
Yes, it took me a while to get unmuted. Sorry.
That's okay.
We did have a few questions about for those who don't drink alcohol. Like one person is having a small glass of 100% grape juice. Is that okay? Or whatever, what other would you suggest instead of alcohol? And I know that you don't want to suggest anyone start drinking alcohol for this. I've heard that on the news and such, but that if you do drink alcohol, the red wine is better. And if you don't, what would you suggest?
I think getting in more antioxidant rich foods. I mean, I think there's certain antioxidants in red wine that they're kind of linking, but no, I do definitely want to make sure that people realize that I'm not encouraging you to drink alcohol. I'm simply just noting that it is a characteristic of some of these blue zones, and that it has been linked within the Mediterranean diet, especially it's mostly within the Mediterranean diet. A glass of red wine alongside all of the healthy fats that are embodied and plant-based foods, it has been shown to be part of a healthy dietary regimen for those who are doing it. If you're not, then I would just not. I don't think that there's necessarily any replacements for it other than just antioxidant rich foods. berries and, greens and good sources of antioxidant rich, anti-inflammatory foods. So that would be something that I would focus on. Okay, so really quick, what I'm doing here is I'm adding in a couple tablespoons of olive oil to my bowl. So we're just going to make this quick little, I guess, dressing, if you will. So you're going to put in 2 tablespoons of olive oil, and you're going to put in 2 tablespoons of lemon juice. And I'm just using that. I'm not using fresh lemon. You could do that. I'm just using lemon juice that I already have. All right, so 2 tablespoons. And then a mixture of salt and pepper. So a 1/4 teaspoon of salt, a 1/4 teaspoon of pepper. Okay. And so in my bowl, I'm just going to mix that up. Okay. And we're going to let that sit there for a minute. So pretty simple start there. I'm going to set that over to the side. I'm going to do a little bit of chopping. First thing I'm going to start with, we need 2 cups of cucumber. And Carol, I can answer some more questions if you have them while I'm chopping.
We really don't have that many other questions right now.
Okay.
Which is a great thing. Hold on 1 second. Your voice is going in and out. So
the whole presentation or just right now?
Just right now. So
okay. It might have been because of my camera leaned down.
Okay, that's probably it.
Yeah. So, but I want y'all to see me doing this. So if you don't have any questions, so yeah, what I'm doing right now, I love using these little kind of mini English cucumbers, and I always leave the skin on. I don't take those off because it's not as kind of tough, and just a little extra fiber. So I'm going to cut those up really small and then measure out 2 cups. All right. So 2 cups of cucumbers.
That's a great way to cut your cucumbers.
Yeah. All right. There's not a lot to this recipe. So I wanted to do a little bit of the chopping, but that's what's so nice about it is that it's really quick. The one thing I will talk, because I'm just chopping up cucumbers right now. So I like chickpeas a lot for beans. If you don't like chickpeas, you could, maybe use a different bean. I think any bean would be fine. I think the chickpea and the feta are always a nice combination, but you don't have to necessarily use feta cheese for this either. I am going to use just a little bit for it. But
what about cucumbers? If you have problems with your stomach and can't tolerate cucumbers, what would be another vegetable to put in there?
Let's see. Some other things that are in here are pepper, onion. I'm wondering if you could maybe probably do a little bit of tomato. But it depends on, if there's anything else that's bothersome, or if it's just cucumbers that are bothersome. But you could just leave them out and just use more of the other veggies. More pepper, like a green pepper.
What about peeling the skin off the cucumber? Does that change the recipe much, or is it okay?
No, that's okay. Yeah. I think it just makes for kind of a softer bite of cucumber, right? Like it's just not going to be as as tough without the skin. And some people just don't like the skin, and maybe you're able to tolerate it better without the skin. So I think that just kind of varies on your personal preference there, but there's no reason why you can't just peel it first. That would be okay.
And what are some high protein vegetables, would you say?
So, I mean, you're probably going to find a few 2 to 3 grams of protein.
I now have
What was that? Sorry. Yeah, so you're probably going to find like a couple grams of protein in vegetables. I mean, vegetables aren't usually a high source of protein. So I usually trend people more towards things like, beans or, if you're not vegan, then you can do things like yogurt, Greek yogurt, doing some protein powders, things like that. Maybe some, as we talked about, some whole food soy products. Edamame is phenomenal. You could do like obviously tofu, things like that. What else? Why am I drawing a blank on what I'm thinking of?
Those are all great suggestions.
Nutritional yeast. Sorry, that's a great one for anyone who's vegetarian. It's nice. One thing that I do with nutritional yeast is it's loaded in B vitamins. So that's what makes it great for those who are vegetarian who aren't getting meat in their diet. But it's kind of got a little bit of a cheesy flavor, and it's their little flakes. And I like to put it over popcorn. So just sprinkle it over homemade popcorn. It's really yummy. All right, guys. So the next thing I'm going to chop up is my red onion, and I'm going to try to do that fast so my eyes don't hurt me. I don't have any fancy goggles. So yeah, so I've already kind of got it prepped, and I'll show you guys how I chop an onion. So again, I just like to make really long, whoops. I'm trying to do it too fast. Long cuts and then go the other way and make short cuts. And all you need of this is a quarter cup, so not a lot. All right. All right, so a quarter cup of red onion. And I'm just kind of, every time I cut something, I'm dumping it in my bowl here that's got my dressing already. All right. So a quarter cup of onion. And then we're going to do some red pepper, which I've already got kind of cut in little segments. One thing, you guys, that I like to do for vegetables is just what I'm doing right now. I like to chop them a lot. So anytime I get veggies and I want to have them prepped, I will take them out, chop up a bunch of cucumbers, chop up a bunch of peppers, chop up some, carrots, baby carrots and things like that, especially this time of year, because I do make a lot of soups. And so it's so easy when that recipe. Celery is another good one because I use that a lot this time of year for soups. So I'll get some celery. I'll go ahead and chop it up, maybe not super fine, but just go ahead and chop it up. And then it's in a Tupperware. And so then when I do have to make my soup and I need it finely chopped, I've already got it almost there. So I just have to do a little bit of work. So that's something that I like to do when I have 5 minutes of time. Like, what can I chop up? So I went ahead and kind of pre-cut some of these. I'll show you how. Same thing with the peppers. I just kind of made long cuts and then turn it and make short cuts. All right, and same thing, we just need a quarter cup of those. All right, I'll show you my bowl over here in a second. What else do we need? We need our chickpeas. So I'm gonna rotate some of my stuff here. All right, so there's what we've got so far. We've got our quarter cup of pepper, our quarter cup of onion, 2 cups of chopped cucumber, and then 2 tablespoons of olive oil, 2 tablespoons of lemon juice, and a quarter teaspoon each of salt and pepper. And I'm sorry, I know my voice might have been broken up there. So I've got a can of chickpeas here. So just low sodium canned chickpeas, just 1 can, and I've drained them. So I'm going to add those to my bowl. The other thing we're going to add in there is, let's see, my 1/3 cup of feta cheese. And if you don't like feta cheese, you don't have to add cheese at all. You could honestly just take a little cheese and sprinkle it on top if you don't want to add it all to the mixture. So yeah, there's a couple things you could do there a little differently, but I'm going to go ahead and add it in. And then the other thing that we're adding is 2 tablespoons of fresh dill. So, and that is it. All right. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to stir it up. All right. And then I'm going to talk about how you can use this. Oops, I lost a little bit. Try not to spill it all. I'm going to transfer it into a prettier bowl here to show you. See how simple that is? All right.
Your voice is going.
Oops, sorry. I hate that it's doing that. It didn't do that before.
It has not ever done that.
Not to my knowledge. It must, yeah.
It's so colorful.
Yes, let me show it to you. Okay.
That's beautiful. Do you have any feeling on removing the thin skin on chickpeas? This person said that some recipes recommend doing that.
Yeah, I mean, it can be a little, you talk about easier on your stomach. It can be a little bit easier for people to digest if you take some of that off. And you can. A lot of times you do that when you're making hummus. That's a big thing because hummus is not going to be as creamy with that skin on. So sometimes when you're really making hummus from scratch and you're pre-soaking your beans, sometimes people will do that overnight and then it just kind of sloughs off a lot easier. But with a recipe like this, I don't think you need to do that. I think it's more of a texture issue with certain recipes that you're going to be blending up like hummus.
Okay.
So
great.
But as far as what to do with this, okay, so you could eat it as just a side. Nutrition facts wise, a cup of it has 183 calories, 11 grams of fat, pretty much all healthy fats. Let's see, 15 grams of carbohydrate, which is for those who are up to speed on servings, it's 1 serving of carb. We talk about that a lot sometimes. I mean, I'll probably talk about that more. I think next time I'm talking about the management of diabetes. There's 4 grams of fiber, which is great, 6 grams of protein. So it's really good for a side to a dish that you're making, and you can add other sources of protein to it. One thing that I was maybe going to do is try mixing in a little bit of tuna or having it with salmon. So, and some green beans. So that was going to be what we're doing for dinner tonight. I'm going to have this with green beans and a few ounces of salmon. But you could put some, grilled chicken, you could put some tofu, you could throw in some edamame for an extra source of protein and another soybean. So there's lots of things that you could do with this. You could top a salad with it. I like to do that with beans like this. I'll have a bed of greens and then I might take a 1/4 cup or so of it and put it on top of a salad with all the other stuff, maybe some chopped up egg, maybe some other vegetables if you wanted something else to go with it. But so it's pretty versatile and it's obviously very easy to make.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Katie.
You're
These
welcome.
are all great suggestions just for everyone to keep in mind and do what suits you and your lifestyle. I think laughing is certainly a great thing that we all need to do more of. And that one slide that kind of had the arch on it that had all the things you went over was just perfect.
Yes, that's a great visual. And you guys can, with the link that I posted at the end, the reference, if you click on that or go to that website, you can pull up the power of 9, the habits that Dan Buettner is, saying that we can all do according to what these blue zones are doing. And I think it's all about starting with what you're able to do, what you're able to commit to. No small change is, worth dismissing. I think sometimes we're put too much pressure on ourselves. And yeah, so I really think shifting your mindset, working on stress reduction, working on positivity, a positive mindset, being thankful for what you have, I think those are huge factors to your longevity. And I think that's proven within this research. So I just found that very fascinating.
Thank you for sharing all this. So the power of 9, and I would add 1 to it, which would be yourself, is observe, just taking note of these things and being aware of them and put some items in action. Thank you so much. And we will look forward to seeing you in February.
Yes. All right. Everyone have a great rest of January. I'll see you next month.
Thank you.
All right. Bye.